Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the lovely Joelene Nell and her presentation on SOS Wellness. With nearly 20 years experience in family law, Joelene is knowledgeable and skilled in identifying the many different issues to consider when people separate and understands that there are more than just legal issues to think about. She also has experience in training of how to approach matters where there is domestic and family violence issues. Jolene's sensible and practical approach as a nationally accredited mediator is how she assists parties to resolve their disputes without going to court. Her passion for helping people overcome these challenges and build happy lives extends to volunteering for various local legal services and community groups, and is a guest lecturer in family law at Bond University. Joelene is an advocate for wellness, both personally and professionally, and today she'll be discussing the importance of self-care, organisation and support to create your own well-being, both personally and professionally. Joelene, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amanda, for that lovely welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm on the sunny Gold Coast at the moment, so I'm not sure where everybody else is, but I hope you're all having a wonderful day where you are. Thank you for giving up your lunchtime, and I hope to be able to share with you some tips and ideas that I have around wellness. I'm quite happy for this to be a discussion. If there's any questions that pop up, I will try remember to check the group chat. Otherwise, I'm sure Amanda will assist me with that. Or otherwise, if there are any questions at the end, I'm hoping that we'll have time for those. Right, so as Amanda mentioned, I am a lawyer, family lawyer, I mediate. I'm also a mother, a friend, a mentor, all these other various hats that we wear. And so in doing that, I'm very mindful that we need to look after ourselves. And that's something I've worked quite hard on in practicing both in law and personally. So I think I've missed a slide. Technology hasn't been going too well for me in the last 15 minutes, so I apologize. So why wellness is so important to me is that the research tells us that 1 in 3 lawyers will experience a mental health issue in their lifetime. And lawyers are 3.5 times at a higher risk of mental health issues than other people in society. And about 1 in 3 lawyers and 1 in 5 barristers will suffer from clinical depression. 85% of lawyers have also experienced or know someone who has experienced anxiety. So these are all very real things in our profession and very real things that we live with. And I'm sure there are many of you that might unfortunately have experienced these things yourselves or have colleagues in the profession where this is a live issue for them. So what I'd like to start off is a bit of an analogy that I think is quite helpful to put wellness into perspective. And it's about every day of your life being worth $1. And so imagine that every day you wake up, you get $1 to spend. So on a normal day, on a Monday to Friday, I'll work. Work might cost me 40 cents of my time, of my $1. And then I've got to take care of the children, household obligations and life admin. And those chores combined might take up another 40 cents. So of my $1, I've now spent 80 cents, which means I've got 20 cents left to spend on me. That might be going to a yoga class, it might be downtime in front of the TV, might be going out to dinner with some friends. It's something for me to do for myself to fill up my bucket every day. But on a particular day, you wake up with the same $1, but you're sick, you're not well, it's the middle of winter, you might have the flu. And so because of that, everything costs you more. Normal things are hard, hard things feel impossible, and by the end of the day, your normal capacity is just drained by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So because of how you're feeling on this Monday, everything costs double. So your ordinary workday might be 40 cents, but today it's costing you 80 cents. And so that means you've only got 20 cents left to spend. You can't do all the running around for the kids and the life admin as well as have time for yourself. So what I think we need to do in those circumstances is consciously scale back, maybe leave the washing for another day, get takeout, ask the kids to do more chores around the home, delegate, in order that you still have that 20 cents to spend on yourself. Because if you don't do that, it means you're not going to have any time for yourself. And it's important each day, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about this later on, each day to assess how you're feeling, what's on the table for you and your family that day and for work, and how you're going to make sure every day you are going to spend that $1 to make sure that you've got the wellness that you need for yourself. So that's an analogy that I find can sometimes be quite helpful. So in talking about wellness, you know, and laugh and the juggle, and, you know, in my mind, it's not as straightforward as we would like it to be. It is a bit of a hokey pokey dance. So put the left foot in, the right foot in, you shake it all about. And it's not this ideal of perfect balance. Some days it's far more work, some days it's far more family. And if any of you have read Michelle Obama's book called Becoming, which I highly recommend to you because she started off her profession as a lawyer, she says this of the idea of balance. She says, the balance of my life was elegant, but only from a distance and only if you squinted. And so what I say is that if the previous First Lady of the United States, with all the resources available to her, couldn't find this magical concept of balance, then I don't think it should be something that we pursue. We need to understand there is a mix of things going on, and we need to be kind to ourselves in those circumstances. This is a concept that I've been trying to practice extensively in our busy lives and our work life with everything going on, is try to learn how to be still. And I do love this quote from Peko Ayer. I'll read it out for you. In an age of speed, I began to think nothing could be more invigorating than going slow. In an age of distraction, nothing can feel more luxurious than paying attention. And in an age of constant movement, nothing is more urgent than being still. And so we hear about practicing this idea of mindfulness, being present. These are things that I think, again, we need to consciously work on because the pace of life, the work demands, emails that you send out, and in 30 seconds, you get 10 emails back in your inbox. Being really present and slowing things down is, I think, something that is very important in order for us to bring our stress levels down and be present both for work events and for personal things that we enjoy. So moving on to this SOS of Wellness, and this is a concept that I've come up with after my nearly 20 years in the profession, and I'm hoping that by sharing it with you today, that it'll spark some ideas. I'll be able to share some practical tips, and that you'll go away not implementing everything at all that I suggest, but picking out a few different things that you might try and will hopefully work for you. So as Amanda mentioned, the SOS is self-care, organize, and support. So we'll break each one of those down and look at those individually and how they work together and can hopefully complement you in appreciating the importance of these concepts and in working towards wellness for yourself. First one we'll talk about is self-care. I have to say this is a particular passion of mine. Who doesn't love to look after themselves and indulge? We all know the analogy about the oxygen mask, making sure you've got your own mask on first before you help others. And I guess what I want to say about all of these concepts, but self-care in particular, it doesn't have to be this something costly or something time intense or something overwhelming. It can be as big, as small as you need it to be on any particular day. And implementing what I call tiny daily disciplines, I think is a great way to make sure you're practicing self-care every day. So you don't have to go and do a 3-hour yoga class. You might do, 10 minutes of stretching in the morning. It doesn't, you have to start off at that very high level. Sometimes as lawyers, we feel like if we're going to do something, we need to do it to the best, and we have to have all the books and all the knowledge before we can start. And sometimes really just jumping in and going, let me start with what I know, with the time I have available, just giving it a go and building on it from there. The top issue I've got there, and I won't talk through all of them, but is practicing saying no. And again, I think this is something that I personally have had to work on over the years, and understanding that saying no is saying no to something is actually saying yes to something else. So saying no to an after hours event is saying yes to my body resting, or yes to time with family in the evening. It's about conserving your energy. It's about being firm on your boundaries. And it's about understanding that if there is something that doesn't serve you, then don't invest in it. It's all too easy to be caught up with this, FOMO, fear of missing out. I need to go to everything, do everything, be part of everything, instead of protecting your energy, often even from yourself. So sometimes it's difficult to find words about how do you say no. And often when I'm talking to early career lawyers, I'll give them some ideas of wording to use. I wish I could, but my capacity is limited right now. Or normally I'd love to participate in that, but at this point in my calendar or in my schedule, I need to say no. But please get in touch with me again. I'd like to do it in the future. So, practicing how you can say no in a kind way, and still hopefully keeping those doors and connections open to the people who you might have to say no to. So in a work capacity, that can be a little bit different to saying no to work, but I'll talk a little bit more about that under the support heading. Some of the other issues I've mentioned there, meditation. Again, there's lots of free meditation apps out there. I do 10 minutes of meditation in the morning as soon as I wake up before I get out of bed. So I don't sit in a perfect posture for an hour, humming. I just do what I can and what's available to me on the day. Factoring in regular exercise, I think, is extremely important, and doing something that you love in terms of exercise. So for me, I'm not a triathlete. I would hate to do a 10K run, but more gentler exercises like, Pilates or bar class, I would enjoy that. So find what is interesting to you, what you enjoy, and just start there. Technology-free days, if you can get them, take them. I think they are totally liberating. Switch off the technology, step away from your responsibilities and the pinging, and just have that downtime to relax and unwind. As lawyers, we do a lot of reading, and as family lawyers, some of that reading can be quite confronting. So I think it's always good to have other reading that is more lighthearted, books that might inspire you, topics that are of interest to you. One of the other things that I do to practice self-care is the concept of gratitude. And a couple of years ago, I had a journal, and every day for a year, I wrote down 3 things I was grateful for. Big or small, it didn't matter. And it's really interesting when you flick back after you've done that for a period of time to see what are the things that you're grateful for. And so often it really is the simple things in life. It's the dinner time with family. It's being outdoors on a wonderful day. It's it's not winning the lotto for all of us. So those are ideas, again, just to be present, just to be still, just have that time to reflect. So for each of these topics, I'm going to suggest an action item if you'd like to take away and try and implement something. And what I'd like to suggest to you is that from this list, or any other ideas about self-care, pick 1 or 2 items and go away and give them a try for a week. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 50 minutes, but pick 1 or 2, go away, try them for a week. And then if that works for you, great. If not, maybe the following week, pick something else. There'll be lots of great information out there, and you can maybe do it with a buddy if you want to hold each other accountable. That's always a good thing to do. All right, so after self-care, we're going to look at the O of SOS, which is organize. Now, quite often as lawyers, we have to be quite organized and quite structured in our work. We've got a lot of deadlines and responsibilities. And so whilst we've got that going on in our work environment, sometimes it doesn't always transition into our home environment and our personal lives, because it can simply be too much, too hard to do, too overwhelming. We do that responsibility at work, we don't want to do it at home. But what I'm suggesting to you is that being organized both in your personal life and in your work life is, extremely important for your wellness and well-being. And in terms of your home life and home commitments, what I'd ask you to consider is how you can get buy-in from family around you that you live with or that might support you, to be able to make your home life as stress-free or as structured as possible, so that you know what's coming up and what you can plan for. And that might be in terms of if you're caring for other members of the family, creating a roster around who's going to take on those caring responsibilities. In terms of children, making sure that you're not doing everything as one of the parents, but that load is shared. And then in terms of the idea of what I call the mental load or the unpaid labor, which is things like, scheduling holidays, dentist appointments, paying bills, looking at what are all those responsibilities entail and how can I share those at home as well? Because it's not helpful for anyone when you're working a long day and then come home and have to sit at the computer for another 3 hours doing all the life admin. Which brings me to the idea of delegating. Again, at home and at work, what are the workload commitments that you can delegate? And at home, it might be a case of, I'm going to outsource some work. I'm going to get a gardener to come in. I'm going to, have a cleaner to relieve me of some of that responsibility so that I don't have to spend my weekends cleaning. It might be organizing a click and collect grocery run, so that is, what's going to happen every week, and delegate it to someone else to, who can pick up the groceries. In terms of at work, it's important to have that conversation with your colleagues and obviously with your supervisors on a regular basis around what is the workflow at the moment, and checking in. So if you're a leader of a team, checking in with other people in the team, what's everyone's capacity, how can we share things around? Or if you're a more junior member of a team, speaking up and going, I'm feeling at capacity at the moment, would it be okay if this task waits until another day, or is there someone else who can assist me with this task? Because quite often other people in the team or in the firm might not realize that you're struggling. And especially if you're trying to juggle and balance issues that might be going on at home, you might, something that might ordinarily take you a certain length of time might take you that much longer if you're not at peak performance because of other responsibilities going on in your life. Other ideas in terms of organizing, planning ahead. So for me, one of the things that I love to do is always have 2 holidays planned in my calendar, to book the time out. It might be 3 days, it might not be 3 weeks as I'd always like it to be. It might be a local break or something more adventurous, but having that in my diary so I know I've got that definite downtime, because I think we need to make sure that we schedule that in and not wait until our battery is fully depleted to then book a last minute holiday because we've got nothing left in the tank. Also planning ahead your personal appointments. So your well-being is, extremely important. So things like your own medical and dental checkups, and I'll talk a little bit later about getting some support from psychologists. So scheduling those things in, just like you'd book your car in for a service, making sure that you've got those things that are important in your life in your calendar. So in terms of action items for organizing, if you can't face planning the next 6 weeks or the next 6 months, then just start with a week at a time. Maybe from the 1st of August, say for 1 week, I'm going to try online shopping, or I'm going to delegate tasks at home or at work in this way, and see if that works. And what are the things that I can say no to? What are the things that are negotiable that I might be able to get out of my diary, or either postpone them or get them out of my diary altogether? And so in freeing up some of that time, the idea is hopefully then you can go back to self-care and fit in a massage for yourself, or a lunch catch up with some friends, or just some downtime to do some reading. And whilst it's always great to bounce ideas off friends and families about what's working for them, remember that you have your own unique circumstances. And so looking at what is important for you, what works in your family, what are the dynamics and circumstances of your life. So by all means, brainstorm with others, but don't forget to come back to that idea of, well, what's going to work well for me? What's going to work well for my family? Here's a little poem, which I think is quite appropriate, sometimes about slowing things down. God, give me a quiet week, nothing too amazing, nothing too far up the creek. I need to do some grazing. God, please let me simply plod a path that's not too rough. Being me is very odd, and that is quite enough. So I always love his work, and I think that's very appropriate. Sometimes we just want a quiet week. We just want something simple. We feel like we've got a lot going on in our lives at the moment. All right, so moving on then to the last of the SOS, and that is support. And so this ties in with the first two, obviously. In order to have that time for self-care, you might need to make sure you've got the support you need at home. And in terms of organizing, you're going to need that family support and other work support to ensure that you are able to bring your best self to work. So support for me, I think, is a multifaceted approach. We've spoken about support at home in terms of involving family members. Can you get someone else to assist with school pickup or drop off? What can be outsourced? And then support at work, both practically in terms of the substantive work that you're doing, seeing if work can be delegated, but in a broader way, I think also support at work in a collegiate manner. So if your office doesn't do it already, arranging a casual fun activity. So it might be a barefoot bowls, it might be a morning tea in support of a charity, it might be a trivia night. And these events, I think, are not necessarily about offloading or complaining or moaning. It's about getting together in an environment where you don't need to talk about work, but with your work colleagues, building up that camaraderie and that team spirit. Because on days when things are tough at work, we're going to lean on each other as colleagues in our work environment, and we're going to ensure that those people around us are going to lift us up, they're going to support us, they're going to carry us, and likewise, we are going to be able to reciprocate with that. We have in Queensland, not only the Queensland Law Society, but also in each of the regions, we have a district law association, and I'm on the committee of our Gold Coast one, and we try arrange one event a month. So it might be like a trivia night, or it might be a professional development event, or it might be an AGM, formal lunch presentation. That way we can come together as a local legal profession. We can meet others, especially for those who might be working in small firms or might be sole practitioners. It's a great opportunity to network with other colleagues. So support at work, I think, is not just about the practical work, but also about finding and harnessing that collegiality in our profession. Mentoring is something that I'm very passionate about. And again, through our local law association, we've set up a mentoring program where we pair up mentors and mentees depending on their interests. And throughout the year, they have a chance to get together and connect and work through whatever issues that they might, the mentee might want support in. I'm sure in your areas you'll be able to find different formal or more informal mentoring. And I think that having mentors who are in the legal profession is extremely important. I'm not saying you don't have to have, I'm not saying you only have to have a mentor in the legal profession. You can have other mentors, but having someone who understands the specific challenges that we face as lawyers, the complexities of the work that we do, the nuanced nature of what we do, and the dynamics. I think it's very important to be able to have those people who we can rely on and you know, share our tough times or seek guidance from, etc. So I'd encourage you, if you don't already, to consider looking at who you might obtain as a mentor who is in the legal profession. And it doesn't have to be someone local in your firm. It can be someone, you know, interstate or in another firm, even in another practice area. That's okay. But someone who understands the dynamics of being a lawyer. Getting a life coach, again, if you've got bigger goals, maybe if you're wanting to open your own practice, or if there's something else that you want to transition to, how are you going to make that happen? Life coaches are great to cheer you on and give you that step-by-step support, and also to obviously hold you accountable. And then professional support, here I'm talking about counsellors and psychologists. I think in doing the work that we do, it would be unusual not to check in with a counsellor or a psychologist. I would strongly recommend it. It's something that I've done from time to time over the years. Obviously, it's all confidential, but the nature of the work that we do, sometimes the volume of the work that we do, the issues of vicarious trauma that we can carry, I think it's important to be able to offload that. So again, I'd encourage you to have a look at your law society, see what services they offer, or even talk to your doctor about having someone professional who you can have that relationship with over the length of your legal career. And then I think all round, what I'd encourage is that, you know, no matter what stage of your career you're at, building your network before you need it, you know, so, you know, join those activities, join the online discussions, connect with people on LinkedIn, go to events. When I moved to Australia 13 years ago, I'd never been to Australia before. I didn't know anyone, I didn't have a job, I didn't have a car, I didn't have a house, had to restudy because I had a South African law degree. And it's really through the collegiality of the local profession and getting involved in events that I've been able to build up a really great support network for me. And in turn, over the years, I've been able to, you know, to hopefully be that support for other people. So it's never too late to start with any of these things. And in terms of the idea of support, what I'd encourage you to do, if you'd want to look at an action item, is pick one of those things that are mentioned there, and then try and make a goal around that and implement that. It might be finding a mentor. It might be arranging an event at work to build up the collegiality. It might be finding a counsellor. So put some time frames around that, and you know, consider making that a goal that you want to work towards. As I mentioned earlier, the South African in me loves this African proverb, which says that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And I believe that our journey in law is certainly a marathon. It is not a sprint, which is why I think building up those support bases is critical for you to be able to sustain your wellness in the journey that we have in our legal career. And what I would also say, underpinning all of this SOS, is the importance of being authentic. I think that it's simply too tiring to be anything else. I appreciate that as we grow older and change and our interests change, person who we were in our 20s is not the same person we are in our 40s. But if you have strong views on an issue, if you are, someone who enjoys certain types of events, then, follow that passion. Don't try and be someone else on social media or at an event, or to try and impress someone at a job interview, because I find often, that's simply not sustainable. So for me, for example, I enjoy being on LinkedIn. I enjoy posts that are about wellness, about connecting, about uplifting the profession. I don't generally post things that are academic in reading or talking about case law. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I often read those posts, which are great by other people, but that's just not who I am. It's not something that I would enjoy posting about or enjoy getting a lengthy conversation. So think about who you are as a lawyer, as a person, and, really bring that with you when you participate in work or personal events, I would say. So a few more ideas that I have generally, if you want to support your wellness, or just, I think, in terms of being positive about life and time to reflect, which I think is really important for all of us. One of the things that I normally do at the start of a year is have a look at what would my dream day look like? What would my dream week look like? What would my dream month look like? So what are those things that I really enjoy doing on a regular basis? And then how can I fit those in when when I'm planning my work and my family life and my social life? So of course we can't all wake up at 9 o'clock and have a slow start and then go out for coffee and bagels. You can't do that Monday to Friday necessarily, but you can do that on a Saturday. So thinking about, what are the things that are important to you? Maybe walking on the beach, maybe a bush walk. In summer, can you do that perhaps after work or in the morning? What are the things that you enjoy that you can ensure you fit into your routine? Because we can't just, I think, work and hold out for 1 3-week holiday at the end of the year. I don't think it's like that. I think we need to look at those small daily practices that are important for your well-being to be able to sustain you, and scheduling those in. So it might be a weekend away with the girls, it might be an annual retreat, it might be time in your garden. And then if you enjoy sort of more creative writing, there are 2 kinds of letters that I sometimes write. The one is a letter to your, say, 18-year-old self, where you talk about things you wish you had known that you now know and love. And I think this is an important practice because it reflects on how far you've come, the things you've achieved, what has your journey been so far, and really acknowledging your own personal journey, the challenges you might have to face in doing that. And then the opposite of that would be writing a letter to your future self. Where do I want to be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time? What are the changes that I want to see in my life? Do I want to move to another state? Do I want to have another house? Do I want to have traveled to certain places? And so once you've identified that, then going, well, what are the things that I need to do to be able to, to reach those goals? And then lastly, one of the things that I love to do, and I think this is very important too, is creating what I call a smile file. So, at work, in family law, we don't get this too often, but from time to time, we get those lovely notes or emails or perhaps small gifts of appreciation, and really hanging on to those, keeping a physical book with that information in it, or those notes, keeping them electronically, because on days when things are tough, when things are not going your way, when court has been difficult, when clients are challenging, I think it's important to read those notes and remember the work we do is important. We do make a difference to people, and that this point in time when I'm perhaps feeling a bit low or things aren't going my way is just a moment in time. and being kind to yourself and knowing that that will pass, and there is good work that we do in this area. So here's another quote that I think for me explains what I mentioned earlier. It is important that you figure out what wellness means for you. I've put out here some ideas that have worked for me, some concepts to think about and some tips, but you need to go away and look at what kind of life you have, your work commitments, your home commitments, and really mold that around what is going to be best for you. What tiny daily disciplines can you implement? Excuse me. What choices can you make? For me, wellness doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean success. For me, it means really reflecting on where you are on that particular day in those circumstances and doing what you need to do that day to practice your own self-care and wellness. Some days it might mean accepting that you're broken, you're angry, you're in despair. Other days it might be a feeling of overjoy or, real positivity. But it's about having that honest conversation with yourself about what is going well in my life, what do I need to change? And so this quote from Pema Chodron is from her book, When Things Fall Apart, which again, I highly recommend you read. And it talks about what we can do when we find ourselves in a mess. When we find ourselves in a mess, we don't have to feel guilty about it. Instead, we could reflect on the fact that how we relate to this mess will be sowing the seeds of how we will relate to whatever happens next. We can make ourselves miserable or we can make ourselves strong. The amount of effort is the same. And right now, we are creating our state of mind for tomorrow, not to mention this afternoon, next week, next year, and all the years of our life. So in finishing up then, what I'd invite you to do is these are 2 reflection questions that if you are so inclined, you might want to go over the next couple of weeks and jot down some bullet points about what does self-care look like to you? What does it mean to you? What does wellness mean to you? And then what are the barriers? What are the things that are preventing you from bringing your whole self to work? Are there discussions you need to have with your team at work? Are there personal issues about your health? What could it be that might be lacking and might be able to make you feel more whole in coming to work? And so they're a small takeaway task about what disciplines or new habits can you commit to starting this week, sort of reflecting on those action items that I mentioned earlier. And a final thought from me, Viktor Frankl, who wrote a book about a man's search for meaning. He was a psychiatrist. He became a psychiatrist, but he was a prisoner of war during the Holocaust. And this quote I reflect on often when I'm frustrated by what is happening in life. And I think about what maybe I need to change about my outlook. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. So there might be external things that are going on that are affecting your work life, your home life, and you might not be able to change them. So what do you need to do then? What are the things you need to practice in order to change that situation? So thank you again for giving up your time, your lunch break this afternoon. I hope that that has been of some benefit to you. And if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I would love to hear how you go with any of your action items or your tasks. Or if you have any other questions, you're welcome to contact me. I'm sure hopefully Amanda will be able to send out contact details. And I'm happy to pass the slides on and share those if that's of benefit. So thank you, everyone.
Joelene, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all that wonderful information. Hopefully it helps all of us, and it's always important to look after ourselves as well. Thank you to all our members who've joined us today. We were very grateful once again for the support of Selena. We couldn't do it without the likes of Joelene and all our members, so thank you again. I just remind everyone that we've got a hidden tax liabilities presentation by Susan Delbridge on the 2nd of August at 1 o'clock, if you'd like to join us for that. Other than that, Joelene, thank you once again, and have a great week, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.